now is that it is too fast. It is really quick. Things are happening in a high-speed scale. And I have some data here. Oops. You know, I like numbers because, as we say, numbers never lie. So we have from the Economic World Forum some data saying that 44% of the workers' skills will be disrupted in the next 5 years. They also say that the companies report to be talking about the skills that the workers will need, but they actually don't have currently strategies about how to work with those skills and how to talk to their workers and let them know that the future is now, is not next year, is not 5 years ahead. But to talk about that, and they have the deep knowledge about this topic, we have 3 guests that are very special. We want to thank them all for being here, and I'm going to introduce them. But first, please, Milena Pacheco. She's going to be the host of this event. She's the manager from Tech TMI. Please, Milena, join me here.
Hello. Thank you. Welcome. Thanks a lot for being here. Enjoy it. My name is Milena. I am a solution manager at Tech TMI, and I help organizations to think and build customized solutions for people for HR challenge. Welcome and enjoy it.
Thank you, Milena. So, ladies first, I wanna invite Irina. Tell me if I'm saying it right. Irina Bezan. Irina is the executive director Brazil for the Bridge Social that just joined GI Group. So, Irina, it's a pleasure to have you here with us.
Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you all. It's a pleasure to be here today. In fact, I'm very glad to be one of the executive directors representing GI Group and also the Bridge. I have been one of the co-founders and also in the past the vice president, the global vice president in the Bridge, leading our team in Latin America, recruiting, outsourcing, and helping the companies to build the lack of talents in their companies. So for me, it's a huge pleasure to be here, especially to talk about the future of work. That is something that in my last 25 years of experience and age, okay, my 25 years of age also, I have been speaking a lot. It's a kind of thing that I really enjoy to talk about people, technology, digital innovation, helping companies and startups to build their future, and helping about digital transformation. So to be here today, I hope to enjoy you all, and thank you very much for everybody who collaborates to bring this event today. It's amazing. We know that we have clients and our collaborators here, so nice to meet you. Welcome, and let's talk about the future of work today. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. You guys can see that she likes to talk, right? Even more than I do. So I want to invite Owen Morgan. Owen is the manager director for Minto UK and Ireland, and he is here from UK. He just arrived. It's a pleasure working with him. He's helping us a lot during our transition from Stato to Statoing to part of GI Group. So Owen, please join us.
Thank you, Candice. Thank you very much for inviting me to this event. I'm not quite 12 hours in Sao Paulo, so bear with me. The jet lag might kick in, but hopefully not until later on this afternoon. So again, like others, I have a passion for careers. It's the thing that connects us all, our career. We have different types of careers. We have different aspirations for our careers. And our employing organizations will have a different understanding around what we want from our careers. So my take on this in terms of the future of work is what do employers, what do we in this group need to do to ensure that we are maintaining the career aspirations of our people? How can we hold on to them? We undertook some recent research in the UK, and one of the questions was, if your employer didn't invest in your career, would you be likely to leave? Now, that might be a leading question, but 94% of people said that yes, if my employer doesn't invest in my career, then I will leave. I will find a new employer that does. So clearly a very, very important aspect of what we're looking at: training, development, learning, coaching. So I'm happy to talk about that in a bit more detail shortly. So yes, thank you very much for inviting me here, and over to Candice.
Thank you. And we have here as well Jim O'Brien, CEO of Tech TMI, and it's a pleasure to have you here. He's also more than 12 hours in Brazil now, I think. Yeah, he just arrived to join us. So I hope you guys enjoy, because we have a great group of people to talk about not only trends, but talk about what we really need to do at the organizations we work for, because this is going to be the difference. The organizations that will last longer will be the ones that start this process now. Jim, please join us.
Morning, everybody. Last and by all means least. My name is Jim O'Brien. I'm the CEO of Tech TMI, which is the learning and development division of the GI group. My life's work has been learning and development, and as anybody that would have been around for such a long time can kind of profess, it's a vocation, it's a passion. And so what we do kind of fundamentally is try to develop people so that they can be more engaged, find a sense of purpose, enjoy the work that they do, and hopefully, without being so glib, to make the world a better place, one step at a time. So we have this passion and purpose to develop organizations and develop people inside to achieve business results, but really in the long term to create people and leaders that want to be in an organization and want to do better. I guess the rest of the team has said most of what I would have said anyway, except to say, this is us sitting in the stage, but you guys have as much industry expertise or knowledge as we do, so it would be good as well as listening to us that we could also listen and learn from you. So as interactive as it could be, and as good as the questions that you might ask or answer would be, it would be helpful for us too.
Thank you very much. And that's the big point. So you guys will see soon a QR code coming here. And if you want to send any questions, you can just picture that and send us questions. The interaction will be the big hit, I think. I'm going to pass to Milena and have fun, enjoy, and especially let's share a lot of information and leave this room today with the sense of, I know more now, I'm sharing more now, I want to do more now than I want to do before I came. So let's leave this room today with different thoughts and insights.
Perfect. Thank you. I will start asking to Irina, Owen, and Jean. In your view, what are the main priorities of companies related to people? Ladies first.
Ladies first. Okay, thank you. Well, I would like to start saying that Sophia, I would like to hire for my team, okay? Who was speaking. Very nice intelligence, artificial intelligence. Well, I think that in this moment, we are passing for three important changes. One of them is the fact that the labor market now have machines. Also, we have a strong meaning that we need to scale up very high our skills, the human capability, scaling up this very fast. And we have other ways to do things using the technology. So based on these three things, I think that the most important is people, of course. So we need to engage our team, we need to train, we need to develop, we need to give different kind of opportunities for our team, benefits, things like that, because we need to retain our team. This is the first important thing. The second is to upscaling our team in their soft skills and their hard skills. And I think the third thing is how we drive this digital transformation. That is something that's a global issue. For me, I think people in the first place always, okay?
You can go, Owen.
I can go. I guess from a career perspective, we see people increasingly wanting a different relationship with their employer. I joined the workforce in 1989, so over 30 years ago. And at that point, the company I worked with was an oil company. I was very proud to work in the oil industry for 10 years in the early part of my career. I think now a lot of people would say that the experiences they had back then would never be transferred to now. So back then, I worked for the oil industry. They said to me, Owen, you could stay here forever. We will look after your career. And that probably lasted until maybe the early part of the 2000s. And then the pendulum swung across, and it was for me to look after my career. And I think, again, that was very much a period that's not going to be repeated. What's happening now is that organizations and employees need to work together to define what their employees' careers look like. So we're very much in this together. We have to work hard on what it means to work in a current employing organization in the 2020s. People want meaning at work. They want to find some aspiration and some meaningfulness in terms of what they do. No longer do they want to turn up at work from 9 o'clock in the morning until 5 in the afternoon and then leave. I mean, that's almost impossible anyway. People need to find some additional meaning at work, so I think it's important that employers offer that. I think it's also important that employers take a longer term view of someone's career, because again, if we're looking to try and retain people, we need to give them a reason to stay. In the UK, it's not unusual for people to work for an organisation for 18 months and then move on. And that's too short a time for them to make an impact. So just at the point where they've understood what they need to do and they are actively contributing, they're taking that knowledge to a competitor potentially. So to try and hold people and retain them, I think is key. How do you do that? Well, you have an open conversation with people around what their wants are, what do they need, or what are their aspirations for their career. And I think it's much harder now for employers to get to that offering where they do create an environment where people can work and want to stay, but it's not impossible. And again, I'm sure we'll touch on elements of that today, whether it's using additional technology, we're harnessing artificial intelligence. There's a range of different things that employers can do to tie people in and to make them loyal workers in such a difficult, tight employment market.
I go less so it's more difficult because everybody says stuff before. Can you hear me? So to build on what Owen said, statistically speaking, people that enter the workforce today are predicted to have 11 separate careers. When I read the statistic, it kind of blew me away, but at first I thought 11 jobs, maybe 11 roles. And I thought, well, that makes sense, but really it's 11 completely different careers, which means from a learning and development perspective, working with organizations, there's a paradox, because on one side, as a learning organization, we work with organizations to develop people, to convince them to stay. And we work with them to find a shared sense of purpose, to find a shared sense of values, to develop them as better leaders or as better employees to be more productive. But at the same time, organizations need to accept that the people that they're investing in right now would probably stay only for a year or two, and then they'll leave. So they have to come to terms with the fact that developing people, even to the greatest extent they can, probably won't convince the people to stay. So somehow they need to find a balance between enjoying the employees while they're around, and then preparing them for the next step, either within the organization or outside. And that means more reskilling and upskilling, more than just developing the people as individuals or to make them better employees, almost altruistically to give people the kind of sense of purpose they need so that they can enjoy the journey and the employer enjoys the partnership while it lasts.
Perfect. I am understanding that people in the center first is the biggest challenge of companies today related to people. And these topics, do you see that these priorities change in different business segments, cultures, regions, or we can say that these apply to everyone globally? Irina, please.
I think this applies to everyone. It's not something just here in Brazil or in Europe, depends. What I can say that, for example, bringing a Latin America vision, for example, for us is difficult. Technology is something that the impact for us is less intensity than in Europe or United States, for example, that the feel is that the best of the technology is happening in these countries. The fact is, in Latin America, we have economic things, we have a lot of political issues, and to have technology, to bring people, good people, and everything, you need money. You need infrastructure to do that. So it's not only a global problem, but especially in Latin America, we have some other kind of problems that impact more, I believe, in this way. But certainly something that impacts everybody. If you are a human, you're going to be impacted, certainly. Today, tomorrow, doesn't matter, but it's something that is going to reach everyone, certainly.
So I would absolutely agree with that. I think the world is getting to be a much smaller place than it was. And I think that organizations, countries, groups of individuals now face the same challenges. I was on a London underground tube train recently, and I must have heard 12, I was counting them, 12, 13 different languages in the sort of the 10 minutes I was on that train journey. So mobility and people moving around, I think, is something that's increasingly happening. It's so easy now for people to set up a business. It takes 10 minutes. All of us in this room could leave here this afternoon, go home, set up a business. We'd have a pretty good website within 10, 15 minutes. We could go out on the market, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, various other social media sites, and we could create ourselves a brand. And increasingly, I think that's what we are seeing, that people are becoming more understanding of the skills they have, and therefore it becomes more challenging for organizations to harness that. So getting people to align to a brand and to a corporate company as opposed to an individual, as opposed to their individual focus, becomes more difficult. So technology is clearly going to play a part in that, and an increasingly important part in that. So if we get the technology right, you know, I have workers who are working for me in India. I have workers working for me in Poland. 12 hours from the UK, I'm in Sao Paulo. You know, going back 20 years ago, that would have been very, very difficult. But now it's commonplace. You know, we're here, industry professionals. We have very different backgrounds and very different companies we work for. But in terms of the challenges we face, they're very, very, very similar.
Yeah, really, it's the same. There's not much to add except to say, you know, we're speaking about trends or the future of work. One of the latest pieces of research I read it only a few days ago was that organizations will start to think about diversification. And diversification in this sense means that companies will recruit globally. So no longer to recruit for skills or maybe even particular local values or culture match. But it means that you have the whole world as basically a resource pool. If that's the case, then it means that cultures will start to blend really quickly, and organizations will need to adapt to different time zones and to different cultures and different languages. But I think we've already seen it, as Owen mentioned, we've seen it start already, but we'll quickly reach a point of inflection because of hybrid working, because of technology, because of AI, because people are more connected, it means that we can work together more closely. Geographical boundaries will no longer play a part. Now, the problems that creates for HR, for legal systems, for taxation, will be huge. But I think, as I say, we've reached that point of inflection now where there'll be no turning back. And as there is a kind of deficit of candidates, especially good quality candidates in the workforce in certain Western markets, the need to be able to go outside of your particular geography or boundary to be able to find the right people will just become more heightened.
So, Milena, I have already a couple of questions here, so let me address some because they are related to what you just talked about. So I'm going to try to summarize something here, but the main point is, what's the role of the HR at this moment towards the future of work, or this you know, the way we see careers now, and how to mobilize and engage people to understand that they need to work together with the company in terms of upskilling, reskilling. I mean, lifelong learning should be something that is up to us, and the company also will help and will provide, but it's no longer, as you guys said before, not just me or just the company looking for that. So how to engage the HR and how we can engage the whole workforce understanding that need. So this time I'm going to start from here.
Thank you. Research has proven that the biggest predictor to long-term success of an organization isn't down to strategic imperatives or a strategic action plan or strong leadership, but really fundamentally, the reason that one organization will be successful compared to a competitor is the quality and competency of the employees, the level to which they are engaged, the level to which they give discretionary effort, the level to which they will advocate for the organization and create devoted customers by providing great customer experiences. So as the world becomes smaller, as it's easier to identify great talent, recruitment will be the number one critical component to providing your organization with a competitive advantage. It's one thing for me to say, you know, learning and development is really crucial. When employees are here, we need to develop them and we need to engage them and we need to ask them to stay and we need to do all of those great things. But it really begins with great recruitment. If you can recruit the best people, and again, if you can use the whole world as your recruitment pool, if you can recruit the best people, it gives you the greatest single advantage over the competition.
So to add to that, my view, I think, in terms of developing people and giving your organization an advantage is the movement away from some sort of generic activities to very bespoke, specific ones. So particularly as you move up the management hierarchy, different individuals will have different needs, and to try and align your learning and development approach, or indeed your recruitment approach, to the specific needs of the individuals you're looking at, I think is really important. Get that right, and you will have genuinely engaged people who will give additional effort. If that is not quite right, then people will get turned off quite quickly. We're all so connected now. You know, I guarantee everyone in this room is working 7 days a week to a degree. I mean, I check my emails on the weekend. I check my emails in the evening. First thing I do, first thing I'm sure a lot of us do when we wake up in the morning, is reach for our mobile phone and just see what's come in overnight. It becomes a habit. So for organizations that understand that and can leverage that and that little sort of technical device in our pockets, I think becomes ever more key to try and link us into our work and you know, what types of courses and information and signs we can get from it, I think is important. So technology, again, I think will play a huge part in terms of that activity.
Well, I think this is a very important question. In fact, we as leaders, as business owners or HR people, right? We need to do this question for ourselves every day. Every day. So I'm going to give my view, okay, my point of view, because I believe this is a question that has many ways to answer, many correct ways to answer. But in my point of view, I can bring 3 topics that I feel it's important. The first of all, as HR, we need to focus a lot in diversity and inclusion. It's impossible to innovate, to create, to move on, to embrace technology, to embrace people if you don't give a hard importance to diversity and inclusion. This including helps a lot to recruit and to attract good talents, right? The second, we have this. The second is we need to remember that we have a lot of different kinds of people working with us. Millennials with the X, I don't know, we have so many decades. We have people with 80 working with people with 18. We have different task forces from different cultures. So this we need to remember. It's important how to manage so much different cultures. Something that the HR is a very good guardian. It's a very nice area to move on with this kind of team. And the second, I believe, the HR needs to be very data analytics, a lot of. To know how to measure data and to interpret it and also to make decisions using data is something very important. And in the past, when we say, we are HR people, everybody think that we are embrace trees and things like that, right? No, it's very hard to work in HR. And you need to manage data. If you don't have people analytics every day with you to understand what is happening, how is productive, because in the end of the day, HR helps a lot to engage people to be productive. It's what everybody is looking for, all the companies and ourselves. How can we be more happy and productive? So HR has, it's a very easy working in HR, isn't it? It's easy. Let's work with finance. No, it's no. I will stay with HR. Okay.
And Milena, if you let me jump in, one question that I believe that you guys here are all decision makers in your companies, heads of companies, and we talk about upskilling, reskilling, always related to the lower medium level workforce. But the question that I wanna leave here is that just for them, or we as leaders need to be prepared also to keep working in lifelong learning, to show the way? Doesn't matter all the courses that are available in a corporate university, for example, if the number one doesn't do it, doesn't show that he or she is developing and is, keeps trying to learn new things. And we always forget talking about that. What about the leadership? Because needs, in my vision, the changes that will last, they always come from the top. And we need to address that as well, I believe.
So we're speaking about what HR leaders can do, and I said recruitment, but there's also responsibility on HR to help with retention. Research has proven, and if you want to look at the research, search a guy called Drea Zagami, an American guy that did some research about people's intentions and employee work passion and the reasons why people leave organizations. And the old traditional thought process was that people left managers. So if you didn't get along with your leader or manager, if you didn't have a good relationship, then you'd leave the organization. But what the research proved was the manager is really just a conduit. They're the person that gives the message from the organization. But the real reason that people leave organizations is because they feel a sense of unfairness. And fairness is split into two distinct categories. It's distributive justice and procedural justice. So if people feel that they're being treated unfairly compared to their peers, or if people feel like the processes that the organization have are treating them unfairly, then they'll leave. And so HR, because they help to manage process and ensure that there's distributive justice, I think have a great responsibility to ensure that both of those things are taken care of so that there's a sense of fairness. If you have a sense of fairness, people will stay, you'll retain people for longer, they'll be more engaged. So it's almost the, recruit them first and then treat them fairly, and then they'll stay.
Perfect, makes sense. And we are here talking about the challenge of HR and companies, but we are also talking about the employees, the needs that these employees have, the employee experience. We talk a lot about this. And I want to ask to you, Owen, what do you think are the highest expectations employees have of their employers today?
So I think there's many. And I'm sure everyone here would put 3 or 4 common ones on their list of immediate requirements that an employee would have of an employer: fairness, diversity and inclusion, fair pay. There's some very common ones. That said, I think increasingly people are looking at their role in a workforce and their place in that organisation. So how do you get to an organisation where you need some commonality in terms of the tasks that need to be done, and then you have the different individual expectations of people within that workforce. And that's quite tricky, because there are certain tasks in any organisation that everyone needs to understand how to do and how to do effectively. And then there are the individual tasks where people may have more of an interest in some of those areas of activity. So trying to combine that, it can be quite difficult, particularly at the lower end, the entry-level roles. If you are an individual who is a telemarketer, your job is pretty well defined. How can you then ensure that you're following a passion? Is it a job? Is it a career? How do you get to the next stage in your development? So I think HR becomes the bridge between employees and the employer to map out what that career path looks like. And that's important, because your high performers, your high potential people, you do need to retain them, grow them through the business. I think that's absolutely key. I think when you look at more senior people, I'm a coach, so I always look at coaching in 3 different aspects. So you have a transactional coaching, which is very much the how-to. How do I do this? So those are the key skills that we learn early in our careers. How do I facilitate a meeting? And then you move through transactional coaching to transitional coaching. So your career is developing and it's moving forward, and you need, again, a slightly different take in terms of learning and development for people to give, or for individual organisations to give that process and that opportunity to people. And then for the most senior people, you have transformational coaching. So these are the big strategic aspects of how you move the business forward. So as an employee, you have different expectations of your employer depending upon the position you hold in the company. And I think as a company, you need to understand very clearly what those are. So everyone here, I'm sure, will run engagement sessions with their employees. And typically what I see is that a lot of organizations look at the engagement feedback, and they gravitate towards 2 or 3 key areas that are common to everyone. But actually the reverse should be true. You should look at what's different for everyone, because that's when you can start to say, okay, this person over here requires this type of support. And if I can facilitate that within the organization, then they'll stay with me. This person requires something different. So again, it's very much around understanding the employees and realizing they have very different expectations.
Perfect. Irina, in the technology area, we know how much they are gaining a lot of space in the job market. We also see companies making large investment in this regard. We know that the biggest challenge in technology area is to maintain their employees engaged and loyal. And in Brazil, especially, we are seeing a lot of layoffs happening. In your view, what are the biggest expectations these tech employees have about their employers and their organizations in technology area?
Okay, I think one thing that's very important when we are talking about expectations, everything connects with some purpose or with something that we are going to achieve in our lives. The fact that we are working in technology is the same. The question is always what we are doing, what we are going to give to the market, what is the value that we are creating, how we are engaging our clients. And if we are doing this, because technology is something that with time, everybody will have opportunity to know about technology. But if you have a challenge environment to create, especially to use new technology, this is something that attracts more talents. For example, if you need to create something that already the market does, at the beginning, this is a challenge, this is new, we need to study, we need to develop, we need to learn new things. So for a tech professional, this is something very interesting. The fact is that during the pandemic, globally, everybody started to use a lot of technology, a lot. So these professionals got more value because they had something to create, to give to the company that was extremely necessary. The fact is that in this period, the salaries, everybody need to contract someone knowing that technology. So it's how the market goes. If you have less person with that knowledge, has more value, we know that. So everybody in technology was earning a lot of money. This was the first attraction, wow. So we see a lot of people starting to work with technology, not because loves technology, but because they could have a good opportunity to make money. And technology is one kind of, not only technology, we're talking about digital products, innovation, people who work in this area. They are used to work with a lot of things at the same time. So for this new generation, companies that provides flexible hours, for example, good compensation package, to create new things using technology, something new, this attracts a lot the professional. But you need to improve very, very hard the hard skills. Because this is the point, the difficulty. Hard skills are good and important to achieve performance in job tasks, right? But what brings a good environment is soft skills. So we used to say in technology, it's more easy to find people very good in hard skills, but they need to improve a lot the soft skills. And this is, I believe, one of the most difficult things to attract talent. And that's the reason I also believe training, development, to give away how we can fulfill this gap in soft skills is very important.
Exactly.
Okay? Just one last thing. The fact we are having layoffs doesn't mean that we have a lot of good professionals in the market. No. Now we are in post-pandemic. The high salary, the high competitive bonus and everything is not longer, because the fact is now we are really taking a look if that professional that was saying he was a senior professional, now with tests, assessments, and many kinds of things that we can see that we know that people was earning too much money but was like a junior in technology. It's impossible to you be a senior person with 2 years working in one kind of technology. And technology is it's kind of thing that is improving and changing every day. So the technology that you know today, maybe tomorrow, it's not worth it. So it's difficult to work in technology, and the layoff is bringing a new balance to the market, a sustainable balance. And at the end of the day, we have a minority of good professionals in technology. So we are struggling. That's why we have layoffs, but we still have a lack of professionals to hire. Okay.
Perfect, exactly. And especially during the pandemic and all the transformations we are experiencing the work model, much has been said about skills of the future, the soft skills and the hard skills. And we already know that hard skills and soft skills needs a good balance between them. In your view, I will start with you, Jim. What are the most important soft and hard skills today, and also the most difficult to find?
So I'm biased, but I'd say that it's more important to recruit and to retain for soft skills, including soft skills would be things like the ability to communicate and the ability to have empathy. As we become more complicated society and more interactive, and organizations are more matricized, communication becomes more and more difficult. Having good judgment and having to rely on data to make good decisions becomes crucial. And so the ability to be able to communicate effectively becomes more and more important. On top of that, the ability to be able to communicate with a leader, or for a leader to communicate with their direct reports, also becomes more crucial. If we think back to the recent past, when most people worked in a face-to-face environment in an office, managers and leaders would manage their staff by activity. So then they'd ensure that people were always active, they were always working, they were always looking for tasks to complete. But now that more people are working in a hybrid fashion or are working remotely, managers need to be able to develop an awareness of how to manage by goal. And so the old-fashioned goal setting, listening skills, managing by results will become more and more important. And I think they're skills that are easy to teach, but more difficult to adapt to. So I think that communication and the ability to be able to set goals and manage people by results will be two crucial aspects in the future.
In your view, this is the most difficult to find too?
It's the most difficult, and it hasn't changed. If we think back to the 60s or 70s or 80s, the quality of communication and the quality of leaders in those times hasn't really improved. If you strip out societal changes like the need to be more politically correct, and the need to be more aware of the words that you use, the need to follow more statutory obligations, if you take those things away, because they're the things that really make leaders better leaders today, if you take those things away, a leader's behavior now hasn't really improved in the last 40 or 50 years, despite the fact that we know a lot more about behavioral sciences. Individuals really need to take greater responsibility for their actions, and I think it's changing slowly, but the fact that we still don't have equality in terms of gender or diversity is proof positive that it's not improving at the rate that we expect it to. When we see real results, when we see a real meritocracy, when we see real gender equality, then we can say that now we have leaders that are no longer biased and communicate correctly and appreciate real skills. But until then, I think it's a scarce commodity to find a leader that is balanced and is able to communicate in an unbiased way.
Perfect.
So I think there's two things for me on this one. And the first one, I've talked a lot about individual learning, individual coaching. And I guess for this answer, I'll change that around a bit and I'll talk about the collective. So I run a football team back at home, 14-year-olds, hardest thing I've ever done. Very rewarding when they win, but it's a tough thing to do. And I guess what I'm looking at doing there is I try and learn all the time, and I try and translate some of my business thinking into the football team, and the football learning into business. And I think particularly now, given that everyone has this hybrid working approach, one of the challenges I have as a leader in a business is my team are all over the UK. We don't see each other face to face very often. Every 6 weeks or so, I try and get everyone together. So I think having that collective understanding around who will work well with who, which team skills do we need, how can we get collaboration into the business is absolutely key for me. I get people together, we focus on the social sometimes as well as just the business, and we try and drive that togetherness, because it's very easy to lose when we're hundreds of miles away from each other. And again, I think in a football team environment, already at 14 years old, I can see the guys that will be the leaders of the future. I can see the guys that are the solo player who doesn't necessarily want to, to sort of embrace his teammates after they score a goal. You can get a lot of information from just watching people. So I think in terms of skills, looking at the team that you have and nudging them and moving them little by little towards what you want as a collective, I think is key. And that will be it's a soft skill, it's a learned skill, but observing people and helping them communicate with each other, so across the business, as opposed to up and down the business, I think is key as well.
Well, speaking about who is the best or the worst soft skill or hard skill, I think that depends of what is happening to decide that. But certainly we know that some soft skills are very, very, very important. Communication, certainly, and communication is something that we are having a lot of impact with the artificial intelligence, for example. We can see how Sophia speaks well, and maybe speaks better than many leaders, I don't know, but it's something that communication certainly is important. We have many kind of soft skills that are important as critical thinking, everything that goes to innovation, creativity, because this is something that is human. Things that are human. Connection, networking, how we communicate. But for me, the most difficult nowadays, the hardest one, especially for leaders, okay, is to adapt. This is a kind of soft skill that's very important, to adapt to changes. Because leaders, all leaders have their own point of view, right? We have our point of view, we believe, we have beliefs, and to adapt to change is something very important. People who have mental flexibility, this is important. When we are talking about hard skills, of course, we know that it's very important to be an expert in what we do. But doing a connection with technology and the moment that we are having the world, knowing everything that is connected to data, and a skill that is important, hard skill is to know data, to analyze data is very important. And things that are connected with artificial intelligence, machine learning is also important. Cybersecurity, for example, is something very, very important. So the fact that you are not a person of technology, but it's important to understand this, to speak about it, or at least to understand how we can use the talent of our team or the knowledge of our team to create and to be more productive and to do things in our company and in our lives. This is something very important. So soft skills and hard skills depends, but certainly everyone here and all the global will need to understand about technology. We need to embrace what technology brings to us. And this is a kind of hard skill that is difficult, because everything that is too much operational, a machine can do better than us, certainly. So this is why to understand and to know a little bit about the hard skills that are important, computing, cloud, this everything, it's happening. It's not a future, it's now. The future is now, right? So soft skills are important for that, to embrace the transformation, to be open. I think Charles Darwin was to say, it's not the strongest who will survive, but who best adapt, right? So I think this is difficult, and that's the reason it's more important.
So I have more questions here. And actually, we have been talking about how to develop people, how to keep up with all the changes and everything else. But looking at the company's perspective, I have a very good question here. So what are the trends on how can the companies understand and measure the value created by the employees. I mean, I need to retain some. I need to understand that some I will need to let them go. It's part of the business. So we want the best ones. How can I look at my employees and understand? So this person or that team is bringing or adding this type of value to my business, to my company. So I don't know who wants to jump on that.
Let me jump in. That's a difficult question. That's a very difficult question. And I think really it boils down to two main issues. One is, what type of people do you need in your business now? And equally, what type of business or what type of people do you need in your business moving forward? Now, that may seem very obvious, but again, I think Jim mentioned it. You recruit for attitude. People who are open to change, willingness to be adaptable, I think will be absolutely key to the future, because in the past you would join an organization, you would learn a role, and that role would be pretty stable for 18 months, 2 years, and then it would change. Whereas now I think change is so frequent. When I did my sort of business education, I learned a model called the change model, Kurt Lewin, unfreeze, change, refreeze. You never get to the refreeze stage now. You unfreeze something, you change it, and it turns into a sort of a slushy ice, semi-frozen state, because you never ever get to a stage where things solidify. Everything now is in a constant state of change, and you need to get to a stage where you understand that people in your business are adaptable, flexible, agile, all of these words that we would use to describe a business that is capable of being very fast moving and capable of making the right decisions in a very, very difficult and changing and complex world. So data AI, I think, is key. Analytics is key. Understanding what people are capable of, what they want to do. You need to try and put it all together and make sense of it. And that's a really difficult thing to do for HR people. But unfortunately, it needs to be HR people that helps the companies do that, because otherwise those skills are lost for the future.
Well, this is a nice question, because I believe, we can use data, for example, to understand what is happening, doing researches, a lot of things that we used to do to bring information to us. But I really believe nice talk, know your team well. This is what does the difference. We need to, as leaders, to be together. We are a team. We need to take care of the fact that the kind of distance, especially in big companies, that you have a lot of areas, sometimes we as leaders got so distant from our team and what is happening in the company that only data is not what will bring this kind of answer. So we can use, for example, technology and data to drive our conversation, to drive and to understand our team. That's the reason that I really believe tools, simple tools as feedbacks, one-on-ones, culture of celebration, 30 minutes talking about how the things are going is very important, because more technology we have, more humans we need to be. And that kind of leader superhero, we need to take care, because it's impossible to be everywhere, anytime, doing everything, especially in big companies that you have thousands and thousands of employees. When you're a startup, it's easier. You don't have, we can spend time with your team every day, every time. But when in a big company, we can use data, but only data is not what will bring the answer. So more technology, more human in our day. So the recommendation is, leaders, we need to know our people. We need to be together with our team. It's very important to understand that. Not only in a professional way, but how is your team? The important question we always say, how is things going with you, but in a truly way. It's not just ask, how is your day today? And doesn't answer the question. So we need to improve more feedbacks, things like that. And we can use technology to help us in these kind of things. That's very good. So this is my point of view.
I guess I didn't want to take the question because as a learning and development person, I'm not an expert on measuring individual productivity. But as a practitioner of learning and development, what I'd say is that all organizations have the same ability to be able to maximize the productivity of their employees. So it's almost an academic question. If employees aren't as productive as they should be, then really it's a leadership problem. If you recruit for the right people and you have the employees with good values, if they're not fully productive, it means they're not motivated. If they're not motivated, that's usually because the business or the leaders aren't motivating the people or leading the people in the right way. So you know, if you get to a place where you have to measure the productivity of people and you lose people because they're not as productive as they should be, that's a natural consequence of business, but shame on the leaders and managers for having employees that weren't as productive as they should be. Quite often when those employees leave and they go to another organization, they become really productive. Surprise, surprise, because they're treated better and they're more motivated. I think really for me, understanding the nature of motivation and why people are productive is a better place to start than being kind of negative to say, let's just get rid of the people that aren't performing as well as they should be. So from my perspective as a development person, I prefer to focus on how best to make everybody productive so that the organization succeeds, rather than wait for people to fail and then terminate. Understanding the real reasons why people are productive is quite simple. The science or the research says that there are 3 really fundamental psychological needs that an individual needs to be motivated and to flourish in work. And the first one is autonomy. And people need to have the perception that they have choices. So ensuring that people don't feel trapped and don't feel that they have no choice is really key for them to feel on a day-to-day basis motivated and content. The second one is relatedness. Organizations and leaders need to ensure that people feel a sense of connectedness to the organization and to the employees and to the sense of purpose. They need to understand that the organization is in the right way and shares the same values that they do. And the last one is competency, to ensure that the employees that you have working with you understand how to perform their job. And so ensuring that they have both soft skills and hard skills to be able to feel competent and therefore confident in the work that they do. If they have those 3 psychological needs met, the research would predict that those people would be happy, they'll be very productive, highly productive, and they'll stay. So rather than say, how do we get rid of people, I'd say, do the other thing and make those people happy.
I want to add an important point here, that assess people is very important, to make assessments and understand where the people are and what they need in terms of development and etc. So the companies understand the soft and the hard skills they need, and then make an assessment with the people to understand where they are in the soft and hard skills, and then make good decisions about people and what to focus in terms of development. We have more questions, right?
Oh, yes, we have plenty. So let me try to focus and divide them by contents or themes. And we have some questions about diversity. So how challenged it is in Europe, in Latin America, in your point of view, in Brazil, I mean, to hire a team that shows diversity. So this is one of the big hits here in terms of questions talking about diversity. I'm gonna again let you guys jump on that and.
Again, this isn't me speaking. This is the research. So the research in Europe would suggest that there's a good intention. If you speak to C-level leaders in organizations in Western Europe especially, you'll find that there's a great intention to have a diverse workforce and to have equality and a gender balance, but it's not happening. And the research has suggested that the three things that are weak within organizations that need to change that would address the balance. So everybody has the intention. If I speak to anybody in this room, I'm sure you'd say that, you know, diversity is a good thing, gender equality is a good thing, you know, it's important to be inclusive. But if I look at organizations and you look at the board of an organization or the C-level of an organization, it won't look very diverse. We can speak to our own organizations. I know that, you know, we have a preponderance of males at the upper echelons and they're white. But if I speak to the people within the organization, they'd say we embrace diversity, we embrace those things. So the first thing is that the leaders of an organization need to create a rallying cry. They need to make it really explicitly important to the operational leaders below them that diversity, inclusion, and gender equality are really important. They need to say it lots of times, because implicitly we believe that our leaders are in favor of equality and diversity, but we don't often hear them say it in such an explicit way. So they need to build policies and procedures, and they need to inform as often as possible that equality is important. The second thing is to use data. We know that, you know, in most organizations, there's a kind of equal balance, for example, of males and females that enter the organization. But as you move through the ranks, the number of females that get promoted kind of drops off until you get to the top, and there are very few females. But nobody can actually analyze and say why that happens. There's an unconscious bias. Is there a lack of allies? Is there a lack of communication? But there's a number of reasons that prevent women from going through the hierarchy in the same rate as men. And so it's really important to use data, use feedback, and understand why females, for example, aren't being recruited and then promoted. And then the final thing is to create development programs, and we can do those. So to create development programs which prepare people, so people of diverse backgrounds, or females, for example, prepare them to have more resilience, to prepare them for leadership positions, so that when organizations do become educated and do start to give people those opportunities, they're really prepared to take on those more responsible positions.
Well, I'm going to speak, this is an issue that I really like to talk about, diversity and inclusion, always together, not only diversity, but also inclusion, because this works very well together. I believe that we can talk about the diversity using age, gender, color of the skin. We can talk in many ways, but I really believe that diversity starts in the way that we think, because doesn't exist no one equal in the world. Everybody's different. Everybody thinks different. And if we are going to a culture of innovation, of transformation, it's impossible to go through this without diversity. Because the diversity brings the difference together. What is different? So it brings another kind of view. How can I use the difference to improve things? We start to look to the other and, wow, what you said is completely different, that I believe how we can make things work. An environment of innovation only will happen with diversity, only. And we have something very interesting in technology. Women in technology. This is something very, very, very hard, very hard and different, and especially in Latin America, But companies, laws, policies, we have many ways to improve these things to happen, but everything starts in the C-level decisions. So we have many companies, for example, that you have a lot of women working, especially in HR, for example, but you don't have in the board, for example. So when we talk, one thing is talk about diversity in general. The other things very well said, is when we talk about diversity and inclusion in C-level, in decision tables. And I believe everything is going well. Everything is going how things needs to go. The more important is that we need to be open. This is a very important soft skills, to embrace diversity. Because without that, it's impossible to continue in the world, to find talents. If we don't embrace diversity, it will be very hard. What we need to do is to improve more training, development, and create opportunities to people to learn. We know many women, for example, in tech, doesn't have high positions because tech is new. They're learning now. And the same, we have a lot of other jobs position that was something only for women, and now we have men's working. So the moment that the world stops to talk about women's, men's, age, color of skin, I think we're growing more as human beings, because the most important is, what is your talent? And how can I help you and support you to improve your talent? Because we only are going to move on with talent. We are working about training and development, right? We train and develop skills that we do well. And this is very important, not only what we don't know how to do. We improve our talents doing better what we already do better. The best of us is what the humankind needs to understand, that the moment that technology is coming is the moment that we need to give our best as humans. And diversity is very important, to learn, to have new experience, and to embrace the difference. It's a very good point, very good question.
And I'm going to add something here. I believe that we need to also look at the historical component. How long ago we were all home? The works for us were cleaning and ironing and taking care of the babies. So after the First World War was when we really start coming to join the workforce. So it is a long path. If we think about humanity, we are actually doing well. We need to improve. I can give you a very, very specific example. We were talking about C-levels. A year and a half ago, I was hosting one of the panels for board members forum, and someone asked about diversity, and I said, I'm not going to say a word. I'm going to show. So can you please, all my fellow board members that are girls, women, can you please stand? We were 10 in the number 150 something, and I said, oh, people of color, I'm not going to even say, because I know that we have only one. So this shows a lot what you said in the top management, but this, we need to empower people to grow step by step, jumping, but that's Kent's speaking. I don't believe that just jumping and just because, as you said, I'm with you. I believe that the biggest diversity that we can have is the ability of talking about things from just different perspectives and points of view, and bringing creativity. And there is another...
Sorry, can I just have one thing there? That's
yes,
okay?
Yes.
Diversity and inclusion, absolutely. Everyone would subscribe to that view. I think sometimes the word that's missing is opportunity. We talk about diversity and inclusion, we talk about policies, we talk about bringing the right people into an organization, but unless we give them opportunity to develop and grow, there's no point in doing it. It's a paper exercise. So I think that's it. That's a key one. Interestingly enough, it wasn't so long ago in the UK that to be ahead of a major business, we have the FTSE 100, which is our listing of biggest businesses. Not so long ago, the majority of white males in their 50s in those environments all came from maybe the top 10 schools in the UK. So unless you went to unless you went to Eton or Harrow, you were I would struggle. I went to a public school. I didn't go to the right type of school, so I would have struggled to get onto that board. Now, I think, Candice, you mentioned it. It will take time, but it's important that when we bring people into an organisation, we then give them the opportunity. So as when that time is right, you have someone, whether it's a man, a woman, people of different ethnic backgrounds, sexuality, whatever it means, you've got people ready to take that jump and ready to take that leap. It won't happen overnight, but it's ongoing, and I think we are actually probably further ahead than we think we are. I think it's, but it'll take time. But it's opportunity. I think is the word that often is missing from diversity and equality and inclusion conversations.
Can we have 5 or 10 more minutes? I know we are tight in time, but because we have so many questions here, I want to address at least the topics. And one of the questions, it's actually very interesting. I never thought about that, but so based on what we know about artificial intelligence so far, do you believe that people may dedicate less time in learning and development because of that? You know, okay, now I have someone thinking for me. I don't need to know everything. I don't need to put effort on it. So how do you guys see that?
So just briefly for me, I remember when I'll let you come in a minute. I know this is your area of expertise. When I did my exams many years ago, there was a question around should we have calculators in the exam, because you need to learn how to undertake those calculations anyway to use the tool. And I think artificial intelligence will be the same. You know, it's a tool. We need to use it for the benefit of what we're doing, as opposed to allow it to become our master. So my view certainly is that it's here. It's not going to go away. There's clearly all sorts of concern around how far it will go and will it replace people. But I think as long as we are cognizant of the value of AI, and we get to a stage where we realise that it does have limitations, I think we'll be fine. It's a tool to be used. We need to fashion it to our purpose.
I will give an image. Very long time ago in humanity, didn't exist fire, right? Didn't exist fire. So I say when fire exists, someone discovered fire, wow, was the most technology of the moment. We have fire, now we can do things different with fire. It's the same thing. In that age, people who understand how to create and to use fire, certainly in that was the best employees of the companies use fire, right? So the time passed, now I love this word as tool, because it's a tool. Someone is programming. It's not something that is just happening because it's intelligent. No, that's why the name is artificial intelligence. Something that's very important to us to understand that if you are not using the best human soft skills, that is the critical thinking, things like that, well, the artificial intelligence will do better than you. Will do better. Can read things that we do, recruiting, for example. We can use our tools by recruiting. Maybe to source a very good candidate, we need 8 hours in a day to do that. But to find the best resume, maybe my intelligence artificial can do that in 8 seconds, for example. Is that what, including the bridge, wants to bring to the market? We can use intelligence to improve things, but that's the reason we say operational things, intelligent artificial will do better. So what we need to do, we need to be proactive, not reactive. This, what you said, is a kind of thinking that it's somewhat reactive. So we'll be dominated with the machine and the intelligence and everything. When we're talking about artificial intelligence, we must remember one thing very important. Someone is programming. Someone put that information. So we are always talking about data information to construct everything in this area, okay? So if we have bad data, if we don't have data, and if we have wrong data, we already know the results, how it's going to be. So we have a lot of responsibility in what is happening in this area about artificial intelligence. And it's something very different, because the good way is not to the artificial intelligence decide. Who makes the decision is us, the humans. Because we are giving data, we are putting data, we are programming. Everything, for example, that Sophia speaks today, and she spoke very well, someone did that programmation. And they did very well, right? She's hired in my team. So this is something that we need to remember. If we are not the people who are proactive, learning how to use this in our job, in our lives, certainly we will be dominated. You don't have, or you are the people who are dominating the information, or is the contrary. You don't have other path for that. And we can use a lot to learn more. I don't think it's something that we are not, it's the contrary. More technology, more we need to improve our minds, to use our minds. For example, the new generation, kids, everybody is using phones, computers, so they are anxious, they're having many things that, you know what is the prescription, the medical prescription for some case of anxiety? To write, to draw, use hands, to use creativity, because everything is programming. So we can't forget to use these things together, then everything is going to be good.
So if the question was, will AI diminish the need for people to be developed? The answer is absolutely no. It won't change at all. Though the way that they might be developed might change, because they might be a need to develop in different areas. But fundamentally, human beings need to be continually developed, and that won't change. AI might change the way that people are developed, because AI can help to train people and develop people more quickly, and they can train people and develop people at the point of need. So it will help in a sense, but no, it won't change anything.
And the last, I know we are short in time, so I need to
we
stop
can say
asking
to tomorrow.
questions.
We enjoy to talk about it. We can say to tomorrow.
True, because we have so many questions, but I'm going to leave you all with a challenge here. Someone asked us to ask you to share your thoughts about a sentence. So if you only adapt, you are behind. You have to drive the change. So if you guys can close with your thoughts about this sentence, that would be great.
Men's first.
If you have to adapt, you lose, so you need to drive the change. I guess, yes, that's exactly true. How you do it is, again, to go back to first principles, to ensure that you have an organizational perspective, you have a great vision, and you have a great mission, and you really believe in the purpose that you have. If you have a really strong purpose and every day you believe in it and you try to achieve it, then whatever tools you use, whether you use AI or whether you use great recruitment skills and whether you have great talent, it doesn't really make any difference, because that in its essence is driving towards the goal that you have, which is to achieve the results that you're looking for. And that could be stakeholder value, it could be profitability, it could be to grow, it could be a number of different things, it could be to change the world. But whatever that vision and purpose is, that's the way to be relentless and to drive. But that never changed, it never will. It's always been the same.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to add too much to that. Get the right people in, give them the autonomy to make the choices that they need to make. They'll make mistakes. We have to accept that. Give them the opportunity, and yeah, I think at that point people don't follow, they lead, and they come up with different ideas and different thoughts and views and visions of the future. So if we can facilitate that as employers, we're doing a good job.
Well, the word is change, so it's impossible to be exactly always the same. So if we are driving change, we must adapt, we must drive change, we must adapt, we must drive change. We need to support and to help people to adapt, to drive change. This is what leaders do. This is what leaders do. And something that is very important when we are talking about to drive change, this is, I think, is the most important to all leaders to understand that a change is happening. We are living in a world that is changing every day, right? And as leader, we need to drive that. Well, so we need to study, we need to learn, we need to be open to diversity. It's not something that is going, I will drive change, but I won't do this. No, we need to be open to drive change. I really believe in leaders who their actions are the actions that they are driving the mission, the vision of the company of the future. Leaders who drives companies by action, I think is the best leaders we can have. Because if we need to sail, I will be the best sailor. If we need to drive the changes, I must to be in front of it and to support my team and to be a person who understands the changes and the importance. So, to adapt and to drive change, we need to do something very important, is to set a mission, to give a purpose. If we don't set a mission, give a purpose, and be transparency, have transparency with our team all the time, communicating, be together, it's impossible to drive any kind of change. And the most difficult change, this is something philosophical, okay? The most important and difficult change begins inside of us. It's something that I really believe. If we want to transform the world, we need to start transforming ourselves as persons and leaders, how we can be better. So we have a very beautiful phrase. I don't remember who said that. I don't say if Gandhi, I don't know, but be the change that you want to see in the future. Be the change that you want to be in the world. So technology, everything is part of a change of the progress of the human being. If the human being is not having progress, certainly technology won't appear. We won't have technology. So the most important is, as leaders, how is our conscience, how we are knowing ourselves better, what is our talent, how to drive change. Because we can't forget, as well, I'm giving a lot of important phrases today. I remember now Spider-Man, the film, who said with higher powers, strong powers, strong responsibility.
Higher the responsibility.
Exactly. Spider-Man used to say that, a very philosophical person. But it's true. We need to understand and remember that as leader, we have some powers to drive changes. So the importance to understand the responsibility and what we are giving to the world is very important to that.
I only can think in one phrase to make a conclusion. The future is human.
Yes.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
So, Milena, Irina, Owen, Jim, thank you very much for sharing your expertise, your knowledge, your thoughts with us today. And in name of GI Group Holding, represented today by Tech TMI, The Bridge, Statuing 2, and all the others that are here. I'm not forgetting about you guys. We thank you very much for being here today and sharing this moment with us. It is very special having people with different backgrounds, different knowledges from the different business of GI Group Holding, sharing and making sure that we are always looking at the future together as one company. Thank you very much, and please let's join us for lunch.